Before you scroll, before another video steals your attention, pause for just one moment. What if the next story you hear reminds you of a dream you once buried? What if a single voice could silence a room, shake the judges, and rewrite a life forever? Stay with me till the end of this story, because what happens in the final minutes will stay in your heart long after the video ends. And if this story moves you even a little, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. It truly helps these stories reach people who need them most. He was the kind of teenager people rarely noticed. 17 years old, skinny shoulders, always looking down, always apologizing even when he didn't need to. In his small town in the Philippines, he was known as that quiet boy, the one who sat at the back of the classroom, the one who never raised his hand. His name was Miguel. At home, life wasn't cruel, but it wasn't easy either. His father worked long hours as a tricycle driver, his mother sold snacks outside a local school, and money was always just enough to survive, never enough to dream. Miguel learned early that dreams were dangerous things. They made you hope, and hope made disappointment hurt more. But late at night, when the house was quiet and the world felt far away, Miguel had a secret. He would put on old, scratched recordings of Elvis Presley on a cheap secondhand phone. The moment the music started, something changed inside him. In that tiny room with peeling paint and a flickering light bulb, he wasn't invisible anymore. He sang softly at first, afraid someone might hear. Over time, the fear faded, and his voice grew stronger. Neighbors would sometimes pause outside, confused by the sound drifting through the walls, a young Filipino boy channeling the soul of an American legend. Still, Miguel never imagined a stage. Never imagined lights, judges, or millions watching. Singing was just an escape, a way to survive the heaviness of everyday life. Schoolmates teased him when they found out. "Why Elvis?" they laughed. "That's old. That's weird." Even some relatives told him gently, "Focus on something practical. Singing won't feed you." Each comment pushed him further into himself, shrinking his world smaller and smaller. Then one afternoon, everything shifted. Miguel's cousin showed him a clip from America's Got Talent on a borrowed laptop. Contestants from all over the world. Ordinary people. Nervous smiles. Shaking hands. Standing in front of judges who could change their lives in seconds. Miguel laughed it off at first. "That's not for people like me," he said. But that night, he couldn't sleep. The thought kept knocking inside his chest. What if? What if he tried, not to win, but just to prove to himself that his voice mattered? The audition process felt unreal. Forms, videos, long waits. Each step brought fear. Each step brought doubt. When the acceptance email finally arrived, Miguel stared at the screen for a long time, unsure whether to smile or cry. Telling his parents was harder than expected. His mother worried. His father stayed quiet, then simply said, "If you're going to do it with your whole heart." That was the first time Miguel felt permission to believe. America was overwhelming. The city lights. The noise. The language barriers. Backstage at AGT, Miguel stood alone, clutching his number, surrounded by confident singers warming up, dancers stretching, performers laughing loudly. His hands shook so badly he thought he might drop the microphone. In that moment, the old voice returned in his head, "You don't belong here. You're just a shy kid from nowhere." Then his name was called. Walking onto the stage felt like walking into a dream he wasn't sure he deserved. The lights blinded him. The audience blurred into shadows. The judges watched him carefully, curious, skeptical, neutral. When asked why he was there, his voice trembled as he spoke about his family, his fear, and the music that kept him alive. A few people in the crowd leaned forward. Something about his honesty felt real. The music started. For the first second, nothing happened. Miguel closed his eyes. He remembered the tiny room back home. The cracked phone speaker. The nights he sang just to feel okay. Then he opened his mouth. The voice that came out wasn't shy. It wasn't small. It was powerful, rich, emotional, unmistakably Elvis, yet deeply Miguel. Gasps rippled through the audience. One judge's eyebrows shot up. Another leaned back, stunned. The crowd slowly rose to their feet as the performance grew stronger, each note filled with years of fear, hope, and quiet persistence. By the final note, the room exploded. Cheers. Applause. Some people wiped away tears. Miguel stood frozen, overwhelmed, barely understanding what was happening. When the judges spoke, their words felt unreal. Praise. Shock. Respect. One of them said, "You didn't just sing like Elvis, you made us feel something." And in that moment, Miguel realized something profound: he was no longer invisible. The video went viral within hours. Millions of views. Headlines calling him the Filipino Elvis. Messages poured in from people around the world: shy kids, struggling parents, dreamers who had almost given up. Miguel returned home changed, not just famous, but confident. He stood taller. He spoke louder. He smiled more. But he never forgot where he came from. His journey wasn't perfect after that. Fame brought pressure. Expectations. Criticism. But now, he faced challenges differently. He knew fear didn't mean stop. Fear meant growth. He used his platform to honor his parents, his culture, and the boy he used to be, the one singing in the dark, believing no one would ever listen. By the end of this story, remember this: greatness doesn't always start loud. Sometimes it starts in silence, in doubt, in a small room where someone chooses to keep going anyway. If Miguel's journey touched you, imagine how many others need to hear it too. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share this story with someone who might be one step away from believing in themselves again. Because the next viral legend might be watching right now, quietly waiting for their moment. Yellow heart face screaming in fear. Just imagine this for a second: a boy so shy he avoids eye contact, a voice so powerful it freezes the judges mid-breath, and a moment so shocking it turns an unknown teenager into a global name overnight. Don't blink, don't skip, because the final moments of this story will remind you why dreams never truly die. And if this story touches your heart, hit like and subscribe right now. It helps stories like this reach people who need hope the most. No one expected anything from him. Not his teachers. Not his classmates. Not even the people who loved him. In a quiet Filipino neighborhood where survival mattered more than ambition, Miguel learned early how to disappear into the background. He was the boy who spoke softly, who laughed nervously, who kept his dreams folded deep inside his chest. At school, he was average. At home, he was responsible. But inside lived a fire he didn't know how to show. Music found him before confidence ever did. His father owned an old radio that barely worked, its sound crackling like it might disappear at any moment. One night, while turning the dial, Miguel heard a voice that stopped him cold. It was Elvis Presley. Strong. Emotional. Fearless. Something about that voice felt like a hand reaching into Miguel's soul, saying, "You're not alone." From that night on, Miguel sang quietly whenever no one was listening. Not to impress. Not to perform. Just to survive. But the world wasn't kind to boys like him. When people discovered his love for Elvis, laughter followed. "Why sing like an American legend?" they mocked. "You don't look like him. You don't belong there." Every joke carved out a little deeper. Miguel began to believe the lie that talent without confidence was useless. So he stayed silent. Years passed. Dreams waited. Then came the moment that almost never happened. A friend recorded Miguel singing during a small family gathering, nothing serious, just a casual moment. That video somehow traveled beyond their town, beyond their expectations. Comments started appearing. Encouragement. Shock. "This kid is special." Miguel was terrified. Attention felt dangerous. But one message changed everything: you should audition for America's Got Talent. He laughed at first. Then he cried. Then he couldn't stop thinking about it. Applying felt like jumping off a cliff without knowing how to fly. The paperwork. The waiting. The fear of rejection. When the confirmation arrived, Miguel sat in silence for a long time. This wasn't just an audition, it was a confrontation with every fear he'd ever carried. His parents didn't fully understand the scale of it, but they saw the determination in his eyes. His mother hugged him tightly and whispered, "Sing like you mean it." The AGT stage was overwhelming. Bright lights. Cameras everywhere. Judges who had seen thousands of performers. Miguel stood there, small and shaking, his heart racing louder than the audience. When asked about himself, his voice cracked. He admitted he was shy. He admitted he was scared. That honesty made the room quiet. Then the music began. The first note changed everything. The boy who walked onto that stage vanished. In his place stood an artist. His voice poured out raw emotion, loneliness, hope, courage wrapped in the soul of Elvis Presley. The judges' expressions transformed from curiosity to disbelief. The audience erupted before the song even ended. By the final note, people were on their feet, screaming, crying, clapping like they had witnessed something rare. And they had. That performance didn't just earn applause, it earned respect. The judges didn't see a shy Filipino teen anymore. They saw a star being born. When the votes came in, it was unanimous. Yes. 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 Wait, before you swipe away, let me ask you something. Have you ever had a dream you were too afraid to say out loud? A talent you hid because the world felt too big and you felt too small? Stay till the end of this story, because what happens in the final moments proves that even the quietest voice can shake the world. And if this story touches your heart, please like the video and subscribe to the channel, it helps these stories reach people who are still afraid to believe. Miguel was never the loud one. He was the boy who stood at the edge of group photos, the one teachers forgot to call on, the one classmates described as nice because they didn't know what else to say. Growing up in a modest Filipino household, Miguel learned discipline before confidence and responsibility before dreams. His parents worked hard just to keep the lights on, and he never wanted to be a burden. So he learned to keep his wants small and his voice even smaller. But music had other plans for him. Late at night, when the streets outside went quiet and the world finally stopped demanding things from him, Miguel would sit on the edge of his bed and sing. No audience. No applause. Just him and the music. Elvis Presley became his refuge, not because Miguel wanted to be famous, but because Elvis sounded fearless, and Miguel desperately needed to borrow that courage. Every song felt like practice for a future he wasn't sure he deserved. At school, life was different. Confidence was currency, and Miguel had none. When a few classmates heard him singing once, the teasing began. "You think you're Elvis now?" they laughed. The jokes weren't cruel enough to complain about, but sharp enough to hurt. Slowly, Miguel stopped singing where anyone could hear. His dream didn't disappear, it just learned how to hide. Years passed like that. Quiet days. Loud doubts. Then one ordinary afternoon, something unexpected happened. A local community event needed someone to sing. No one volunteered. Someone mentioned Miguel's name, almost as a joke. His heart pounded. His first instinct was to say no. But something inside him, something tired of being afraid, said yes instead. That small performance changed everything. People didn't laugh. They didn't talk. They listened. Some stared in disbelief. Others smiled. Miguel felt it, that electric moment when a voice finally meets an audience that understands it. A short clip from that night found its way online, and suddenly comments started appearing from strangers. Encouragement. Amazement. One comment stood out above all others: "This kid needs to be on America's Got Talent." The idea felt impossible. America was far away. AGT felt like another universe. Miguel almost ignored it. Almost. But dreams don't knock gently forever. Eventually, he applied it quietly, without telling many people, afraid that hope would jinx everything. When the invitation arrived, Miguel froze. This was no longer a fantasy. This was real. Telling his parents was one of the hardest moments of his life. They were scared for him, but they also saw something new in his eyes: determination. His father simply nodded and said, "Sing honestly." That's enough. Standing backstage at AGT, Miguel felt smaller than ever. Performers laughed, stretched, practiced confidently. He sat alone, hands trembling, wondering if he had made the biggest mistake of his life. Every insecurity screamed inside him. You don't belong here. You're not ready. You're not enough. Then he stepped onto the stage. The lights were blinding. The judges unreadable. The audience silent. When Miguel spoke, his voice shook. He admitted he was shy. He admitted he struggled with confidence. That honesty softened the room. When asked what he would sing, he took a deep breath and chose the music that had carried him through his darkest nights. The first note hit the air and everything changed. The fear dissolved. The boy disappeared. What remained was pure emotion. His voice carried years of silence, doubt, and hope, wrapped in the spirit of Elvis but grounded in his own truth. The judges leaned forward. The audience gasped. By the time the chorus arrived, people were already on their feet. The final note didn't just end a song, it ended a chapter of Miguel's life. The reaction was explosive. Cheers. Standing ovation. Tears in the crowd. The judges didn't hesitate. Praise poured in. Shock turned into admiration. And when the verdict came, it was unanimous. Yes. Miguel stood there shaking, overwhelmed, realizing that the world had finally heard the voice he almost kept hidden forever. The internet did the rest. The performance spread like wildfire. Millions of views. Headlines calling him the Filipino Elvis. Messages from people who saw themselves in his fear. In his shyness. In his courage. Fame arrived fast, but Miguel remained grounded. He returned home not just as a viral sensation, but as proof that quiet people can still make loud impact. The biggest change wasn't the attention, it was the belief. Miguel no longer sang to escape. He sang to inspire. He sang for the kid he used to be, and for the millions still afraid to step forward. And that's the truth this story leaves behind. You don't need to be loud to be powerful. You don't need permission to dream. Sometimes, all it takes is one moment of bravery to turn a hidden voice into a legend. If this story inspired you, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs this reminder today. Because somewhere right now, another shy dreamer is waiting for their moment, and it might be closer than they think. Yellow heart face screaming in fear. What you're about to hear is not just another talent show story. It's the kind of moment people remember where they were when they saw it. A moment when the room changed. When the judges stopped judging. When millions of viewers felt something crack open inside them. Don't skip this, don't look away, because by the end, you'll understand why this performance became legend. And if this story moves you even a little, make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel, because stories like this deserve to be heard. On the day Miguel walked onto the America's Got Talent stage, nobody expected history. To the judges, he was just another contestant in a long line of hopefuls. To the audience, he was another nervous teenager with shaking hands and a soft voice. To himself, he was a boy fighting years of fear in the space of a few seconds. Miguel grew up learning how to stay invisible. In his Filipino hometown, survival came first, dreams came last. He watched his parents work until exhaustion, never complaining, never asking for more. That taught him something dangerous, that wanting too much was selfish. So he learned to want quietly. To dream silently. To never stand out. But music didn't ask for permission. He discovered Elvis Presley by accident, through an old recording passed around by neighbors. The voice was bold, fearless, alive, everything Miguel felt he wasn't. Yet somehow, when he sang those songs alone, something inside him unlocked. He didn't feel brave, but he felt honest. Singing became the only place where fear loosened its grip. Still, honesty didn't protect him from doubt. People didn't understand. Some laughed. Others told him he was wasting time. "You're shy. That kind of stage isn't for you," they said. Over time, Miguel almost believed them. Almost. The audition for AGT wasn't driven by confidence. It was driven by exhaustion from hiding. He applied quietly, expecting rejection. When acceptance came, fear returned stronger than ever. The dream he once sang about in secret was now demanding courage in public. Backstage, Miguel felt like an intruder. Confident performers joked and practiced, while he sat alone, replaying every insult, every failure, every reason he shouldn't be there. His hands trembled. His heart raced. He considered walking away. No one would blame him. No one even knew him yet. Then his name was called. The judges noticed his nerves immediately. His posture. His voice. His honesty. When he spoke about his shyness and his background, the room softened. Not out of pity, out of recognition. Everyone knows what it feels like to be afraid. And then the music started. What happened next is why this moment went viral. The first note cut through the room like lightning. The judges' faces changed instantly. Not slowly. Not politely. Instantly. This wasn't imitation, it was emotion. Miguel's voice carried something raw and undeniable, shaped by struggle and restraint, released all at once. It wasn't just Elvis Presley's sound. It was Miguel's life pouring out. The audience didn't wait for permission to react. Gasps turned into applause. Applause turned into a standing ovation before the song even ended. One judge leaned forward in disbelief. Another shook their head, smiling like they had just witnessed something rare. By the final note, the silence that followed was heavy, not because people didn't know what to do, but because they knew they had just seen a turning point. The judges stood. Praise followed. Not exaggerated. Not rehearsed. Real. One of them said, "This is why this show exists." Another admitted they had completely underestimated him. And in that moment, Miguel realized something life-changing. Fear had lied to him his entire life. The yes came quickly. Unanimous. Powerful. Earned. But the real victory didn't happen on stage. It happened later, when the video spread across the world. Millions watched. Millions reacted. People who had never met Miguel felt seen through him. Shy kids. Quiet adults. Dreamers who stopped believing because they were told to stay small. Miguel went back home changed, not because of fame, but because of permission. Permission to take up space. Permission to be heard. He stood taller. He sang louder. He honored his roots while stepping into his future. The pressure didn't.